On today's episode of RC Kicks, to cheer ourselves up from being back in COVID lockdown in the UK, completely locked down, no schools, no nothing. So I thought to cheer myself up and hopefully cheer you guys up, we'll be working on this A-stamp Cadillac RC10. So stay tuned for that one because we're going to bring it back to life with its original electronics. Hi and welcome to RC Kicks. On today's show, well, we're working on a car that needs no real introduction because everybody knows this car. It's the iconic car from RC10, which is from Team Associated, and it was a game-changing car. Now, if you don't know about this car, I highly recommend you looking into it because it's fascinating and it is an amazing bit of vintage buggy history. I'll put two brilliant links in this video description. One is to a website that shows you and people talk about all the changes of this car over its lifespan, because as it was being developed and changed, little things were changed all the way through, and there's some real hardcore fans with this car who know all the small little changes. That's not me. This car wasn't on my radar when I was young. I only got into this car about 2 years ago. I have two of these cars. I have a vintage one and I have the classic Riri, which is a new in box one. I've got the boxes for both these cars, so I will restore this. This will be a shelf queen and this will be a driver. But you would say to yourself, why are you driving the vintage one and not the classic one? Well, believe it or not, the Riris are just as valuable as the early cars are. Now, this isn't a super rare early car. It's a slightly later one. Now, people talk about two different things. They'll say Cadillac or Edinger. Now, what that is the address that these were made at. So the company was very small, Team Associated, when they started out, but this car gained so much popularity, unit sales went through the roof and they struggled to meet their demands. So what they did was they moved to a slightly different premises. Well, they actually opened a second premises and they had both for a while as they transitioned across. When you buy one of these, if you get the box, it actually says the address on the box. So when people talk about them, they'll say it's an A stamp Edinger, or it's a B stamp, or so that says where it comes from and the stamp of production. So of course the early address is the East Edinger. So if you can get an A stamp Edinger, that's the very, very early ones. And also you can tell sort of by the gold color being lighter on the earlier cars, and then it became more rich on the slightly later cars. Now, when we say later cars, this is still a 1984 car. This on the box, it says is kit 6016, which is basically the bearing variant of this car. So there was different kits for different options, but this one came with the bearings, and sure enough, it has the bearings in it right now. Now, the body was long gone. This one has actually been driven, but it's still got the original mechanical speed controller in it, which is really cool. And I'm going to try and keep it. I'm going to try and keep it running the original electronics that are in this car now. The only thing it's missing is a receiver, which I don't have. So I'm going to use something like this to bring it to life, and my code stick, mainly because of size, to keep it small. And then I'm just going to run some batteries, so hopefully I can bring it to life with some batteries and some switch for the electronics, and then we'll use the mechanical speed controller to drive the actual motor. So that's the plan. The only thing I've done to this is I've put new tires on it because the tires that were on it were completely destroyed. Right, so what else can I tell you about this car? Well, it went on to win some pretty serious championships. The world, it actually came first, second and third in the first ever off-road world championships in the stock unmodified class. That's how good this car was out the box. Also, the shocks were a big step forward for what was available at the time, and you can adjust them with the collars, which sounds very simple now, but back in the day, this was a big step forward for them. Also, not only was it a highly performing car, it also looked really cool. I'll put a picture up here. The box art was amazing. Now, this car was designed by a guy called Roger Curtis. So RC10 actually stands for Roger Curtis 10, not RC as in remote control. He designed the chassis of this car, but Gene Husting designed the wheels and the body for it. But it's part of its iconic look was the actual box art that I'll put a picture up here what it looks like. It's absolutely stunning. Even today it looks amazing, and that was designed by the late Chris Chan. He designed the box art of it. But then the weird thing was, is the box art that was on the box and on advertising and stuff like that wasn't exactly the decals you got in the box. Some of them are missing. Now, when they did the re-release, they actually put some of those decals on the re-release decal sheet. So people that were trying to restore these back to absolutely box art would purchase the decal sheet for the re-release to be able to use it. Now, one thing that they did with Team Associated, when they brought this out, they actually wanted to make sure that it wasn't a direct copy of the vintage buggies. They wanted to try and preserve them, that you can actually tell the difference. So a lot of the parts on this car deliberately changed a little bit to make it more obvious what was vintage and what is more new. But then the joke was the re-re's have become so desirable, they're just as valuable as the vintage ones. So there you go. But I wanted to have one that I could drive and one that would sit on the shelf. And these are gorgeous, absolutely stunning. So there you go, really, really nice. So what happened was, as the company was very small and demand was growing, there was lots of scrambling to meet the demands. So consistency wasn't really there. Things kept changing all the time. So if you're looking to restore one back to a exact original, for instance, that's much more difficult because all little parts changed. And there's some people that are so hardcore into these that go check them out. Me, I just like the look of them and I'd love to drive one, so that's the plan. Right, that's enough waffling. Let's crack on, see if we can A, bring the car back to life, and B, get the body painted up in time. So first of all, we're going to bring the car to life first, because there's no point if the car won't run, if I can't get it up and running quick enough to start doing the body. So let's focus on getting the car running. Fingers crossed I've got everything I need, and then we'll paint the body up. Now I'm going to paint it up with Tamiya PS19 Camel Yellow, and then I'm going to back it in white. I've got some aftermarket decals from MCI Racing. There we go. And also I've got a motor cover to cut out, the rear wing to go on, and then I've got a bag of bits and pieces that came with it, and then there's some spotlights as well. I'm not sure whether I'll just keep the spotlights for the Shelf Queen one, because I want to run this quite a lot around the Boograd track, because this is exactly what should be running around the track all the time. So I'm not sure about the lights, as I might rip them off, but we'll see. Also, there's a few little upgrade bits and pieces in here I can see, because I bought both of these second hand. I didn't buy them new. And this original car came with this bag of bits, and it looks like there's some metal steering parts in there as well. So I'll have to look and see what's in there. Right, let's crack on and bring the car to life. Fingers crossed. Unfortunately, it became quite apparent that the mechanical speed controller was well past it. Reverse doesn't work. Also, the two old servos, their range of motion and the amount of resistance they have to actually turn anything was quite minimal. I managed to improve the steering by putting a longer steering horn on to give it the range of motion that I needed, but the mechanical speed controller servo just didn't have the range to move the mechanical speed controller to full maximum. I left it in just for this video and to do a little bit of running, but unfortunately it'll all have to come out, and I'll put in some vintage, bit hotter electronics, methinks. Okay, so the car is alive again. I had a bit of a problem with the mechanical speed controller. I've greased it up and I've sanded it down a little bit to improve the contacts. Also, I had to adjust the steering, and I changed the servo horn to be a longer one to have more range, because the steering was very light. From full turn to full turn was very small. So let's see how it is. It's not perfect, obviously, being vintage. My plan is I'm going to run it with a mechanical speed controller just so we can set a time. Then I'm going to put a slightly vintage electronic speed controller in this so that it's more drivable. The mechanical speed controller just seems to be on or off. One of the problems I seem to be having with it is that the servo doesn't have enough range. I centered it so it's now in a position of it's just sitting here without it running, but then I can't go all the way to maximum speed, and then I've got extra here, but then I've centered the servo. So the only thing I can think of is what I'll do is I'll try again, is I will set it on my controller and move it so it's running, and then back it off a little bit, and then hopefully that will give it more acceleration. Reverse doesn't seem to work, but I don't even know if this ever had reverse, but it looks like it had reverse. But it doesn't seem to do anything reverse. So yeah, right, let me plug it in. So now I fixed the steering. The steering's got a decent amount of steering, which is great. And then if I accelerate, no reverse. So comment below if you know that this never had reverse, but it certainly looks like it should have. And then it won't go all the way to top speed. Because I mean, I don't know if that is top speed or not, but it won't go to the position that the manual says because it hasn't got enough reach. But I'm not really going to use it like this for very long. I just wanted to get it up and running so we can run it around the track just for a bit of fun. But I really want to get this to be really quick around the track. So some slightly more modern electronics compared to 1984, not today's electronics. Right, okay, so that's alive. What we need to do now is focus on the body, get the body painted up, and then we can put it around the book red track. So, right, what we've got to do first. First, I've got to clean the body, give it a clean, then I've got to mask off the windows, and then it shouldn't be too difficult to just paint it up. So, let's do that. After many hours, the masking is done around the windows. The back of the RC10 is a bit of a weird one because it's got kind of windows, but it's a bit blacked out and it's a bit of a mess at the back as to how it actually should lay out. So a lot of people just paint the back black, but I've actually done the windows. So the idea is that what I've done is I've masked the windows and I've masked the pillars. So I'll spray it orange, sorry, not orange, camel, what is it, PS19 camel yellow. Then I'll back it in white, and then once I've done a good few layers of that, I might even back it in silver instead of white, is I will go back in, I will pull out these orange bits, and then I'll spray them black, and then I'll be able to take the rest off, and then the windows will be clear. Now I know you should never spray black last, you should do it first, but it would take me hours to mask up everything just to do these. So I'm going to attempt it to see how it is, just to make life a little bit easier for me. Otherwise I'll be here for hours and hours. So right, and what's next? Well, I've cleaned everything. I've done the spoiler, trimmed it up, sanded it all down, put the holes in, found the mounts and the rear spoiler bit. I've cut out the cover. So I'm going to paint that as well. So we're all pretty much ready to paint. So wish me luck. Let's give it a go and see what happens. So I've done 4 layers of the camel and it's just drying up now. No issues so far, no reactions or anything like that. Next, what I've got to do is back it in PS41 silver. That should keep it vibrant, but also protect it for when I go over with the PS5 once I take out the sections I want for the uprights. So obviously don't do it this way. This is just me being lazy, but hopefully the silver will protect the camel from the black once I lay it up afterwards. But I'm going to do a good three coats of the silver, and then that should lock in this color, so whatever I put underneath it shouldn't change it. Now it can be a little bit iffy, so let's see how it goes. But for me to mask up the whole body just to do these tiny little black uprights, it's a lot of work. So I'm cheating, but you know what happens if you cheat? It can come back and bite you on the backside. I fitted the gear cover, that's done, and the spoiler is pretty much finished. It started raining, which slowed me down a little bit, and now it's dark, so I'm now painting in the dark. But hey, everything's going on okay. Right, let's carry on and get the silver on. Right, after many hours we get to this point. I'm pretty happy with it. It's got one little blemish there, but luckily there's a decal that runs all the way along, so I dodged that bullet. Basically I got that from putting the body on the car while it was still too soft, and then what I tried to do is touch it in, and I've actually made a blemish. But luckily there's a sticker that goes across there. I'm pretty happy with it. It was getting very dark by the time I finished painting it because I wanted to leave it overnight to harden. This is another day, so yeah, pretty good. What I can recommend when you're doing this kind of work is mask it off to paint it, which is what I did. See, it's all been painted, but then you go around and you put a little bit of edging, so you end up with edging and paint, and you get a really nice finish. I'm not skilled enough to be able to mask all this off to paint it in that level, so mixing up painting and edging really gives you the effect, and it works really well. It looks very clean and very neat. Right, let's get all the decals out, slap them all on, and hopefully we can call this one done. Don't cut out your decals like I'm doing here, you will ruin your desk. Don't forget, I am a trained idiot. You'd never believe that this colour combination would work, but it's absolutely stunning, and it's just pure 80s goodness. I actually quite like fitting the decals because it all starts to come together and it starts to come to life, and you start to see the fruits of your labour. And I think we'll call that done. Very 80s and absolutely stunning. Gorgeous. In real life, it's just as pretty as it is in the photographs. Now, it was really good for me to do this one first because I've learned quite a lot. So when I go and do my Riri, which is an original body with original decals and everything and painting, I want to get that one bang on. This is a driving car, but I want to have a shelf queen and I want it to be as perfect as I can get it. So what did I learn from building this body? Well, the first one that you want to be careful of is when you fit the mounts for the spoiler. Don't put them in the middle, move them further forward than you normally would, because when you fit this decal, it actually rides underneath. So that's my first mistake. They're fractionally too far back. but I got it to work and it's fine. It just made life a little bit more difficult. These are MCI Racing decals, and the body is a reproduction body as well. So the MCI decal for the rear spoiler, this one up here, is too wide, so you have to trim it down, so just be careful of that. The colours from the MCI decals versus the original ones are pretty close, to be fair. The only one that's slightly different is the pink. If anything, the pink is too vibrant, slightly too dark, versus the original ones, which are slightly softer pink, but there's not much in it. As for the blues, they look almost the same, so that's really good. So I can recommend the decals from MCI Racing for doing reproduction ones of this. Another one that I would keep an eye out, and another mistake I made, is when you get the MCI decals, this stripe along here does actually taper slightly, and you can see it in the white just if you look for it. What you need to do is I would trim a little bit more off the white and a little bit off the pink to make this line thinner, because it's very tight in here. But the main issue is if you don't do that, when you get to this section up here, you get this drop. You get this drop here. And that's putting the decal under a lot of stress, and it does start to lift. So of course, if it's lifting, you're going to get dirt going up in there, and then it will actually lift off the decals. So I would definitely look at making the stripe slightly thinner. That way you won't actually get the decal dropping down. It should go more straight across, and you won't have the problem that I'm going to have there. I've tried using the hairdryer on it, but it just keeps lifting. So I'm going to have to sort of come up with some sort of glue or something, because as soon as I start driving it, muck is going to get in there where it's sticky. From that side. What else can I tell you about this? Everything else went okay. I can definitely recommend doing the pillars, painting them, and then using line decals to really sharpen it up. So you've got a mixture of two, like these ones up here were paint, but then obviously this is a decal. It's not one sticker, I actually made that out of lines. Pinstripe decals, which really made it look sharp. This one on the back, this decal on the back is a right pain because of the curves and everything. I looked online and that seems to be where everybody puts them, but personally, if I was going to do it again, I would move this decal higher up, and where this decal is here, I would move it forward so that it would swoop up closer to the window, because this part of the top is more flat. So it's easier to get a smooth transition between the three decals, two sides and one top. And you need to have that because it is really difficult to do it at the back, which is what I'll do on my actual proper one. Right, shall we take it out in the garden and see how it goes? So there you go, I hope you enjoyed that. It was nice to get it out and about, but wasn't it slow? Why? Well, the mechanical speed controller servo that's in there doesn't have the range. However much I messed around with it, it only seems to have about that much range, and I need a lot more for it to sweep all the way across. But I'm going to put some vintage electronics in it. I already have them, so there'll be an upcoming video where we actually get it really running properly, and hopefully the book rack will dry out enough that we can put this on that track, because I think this is perfectly suited for that kind of track. Lovely, absolutely adore it. What I might do, I might take the mechanical speed controller out of this and put it into my re-released one, because that's never going to be driven, so it'd be nice to make that look like as it did back in the day. What else? I'm going to change the motor. The motor will be something a little bit hotter. This motor will go into that reproduction car as well. Right, two other things that I want to talk to you quickly of. The winner of the Grasshopper top in my last video, that was Keith Grimshaw from Portsmouth. Well done, Keith. I will pack it up and send it off to you. I said I'll do it yesterday, but I wanted to get it in the video just so everybody knows that someone won this. Otherwise, people keep commenting in that video that they want to be included, but it's already gone to a winner. And the other thing I'd like to say, a massive thank you to Mike for helping make this happen. This is my new studio DSLR camera, which does 4K and all kinds of cool stuff. So hopefully in the next video, if I can figure it all out, the image quality will be improved. Also, I'd like to say a massive thank you to the RCKicks patrons, because their contribution went straight into this, because this is a pretty nice camera and it's well out of my own pocket budget at the moment. So their contribution plus Mike making it happen made this possible. So a massive thank you to you guys. If you'd like to become part of the Patreon RCKicks, I'll put a link below. There's lots of content that comes out behind the scenes all the times, and it just helps make the show possible so that I can keep purchasing things behind the scenes to make things improving and moving forward. Thanks so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Oh, 3 days it took to do that. 3 days. Looks good though. Well chuffed. See you on the next one.